Hello, we are
Hi.
live. So exciting to see you guys. As you come in, we would love for you to introduce yourself, say where you're joining us from. You will notice that I have a guest on today's live, which isn't typical. Usually it's my husband or my kids, but this is still family. This is Cassidy, my sister-in-law. And do you want to tell everybody why you're here or what you do here at Gather Round?
Oh my goodness. Well, I actually just moved here from Canada and I am in marketing now. It's been very exciting. It's been a huge move. We've only been here for a few weeks now, so still getting settled into things.
It's like a culture shock coming from
Yes.
Canada. Oh, hello. I found one. Did they not get my text? I used Jonathan's. I was looking for a charger. Thank you, though. All right, so we are going to be starting off with a little bit of news, and then we are going to be going into today's topic. And I don't know if you saw, I'm hoping you did, because it's the title of this event that you are on right now. But we're going to be talking about some of the different options with education. And I think this is a hot topic because you saw my post maybe recently on Instagram and Facebook, but the future of education, I think, is changing drastically. And I'm watching this isolated homeschooling by yourself model coming into question, I guess. And I feel like people more and more are looking for more community and connection, and they just don't want to be doing this on their own. I'm watching, it's not just mom even homeschooling, it's dad, it's the whole family getting involved. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the different options and but let's start off with a little bit of news. I have to turn on my chat on this side, make sure I can see your guys's comments. All right, Heather says she cannot hear me. That is on the app. Can you guys hear me on the app? Can anyone else chime in? Amber, you can hear us. Can you guys hear us on Facebook, YouTube? Is it audible? I hope so. Awesome. All right, perfect. I lost, in a tragic series of events, I lost my microphone. My son was moving things and things fell and something happened. Yeah. So my very expensive microphone is gone. So if you can't hear us, if we're not loud enough, we'll try to really project our volume. It will be good.
Closer.
All right, so let's start off with the event. I just sent out a newsletter way too late today. My day got away from me, but I wrote a newsletter a little bit about the event, and that is an online, basically homeschool convention that is coming up in about 2 weeks, a little bit less than 2 weeks. It is the 23rd and the 24th. You can join it from your own home. I know that it's expensive to go to a homeschool convention, hotels and travel and gas, but we need encouragement and connection and community. And so it's going to be done a little bit differently. I've decided I'm going to host it on our app. There will be a private section of our app. And some of you who haven't been in the village don't know about some of the features that are here, but there are a lot of features. So this is a free app, by the way, that you can go and join. And basically when you register for the event, we're going to be adding you into this group in the next couple of weeks. And that's where the videos are going to be hosted. So you'll get a notification every day at those various times with the videos. You can watch them. You'll have access to them the entire week leading up past the event, I guess, to the end of the sale. So you'll have access from the 23rd. When did it end? The 29th? Is that the end of the sale? To the end of the day on the 29th. So if you can't make it at 9 a.m. for that one, you can catch the replay of it and it will be available. At the end of the week, the group will be removed, so you'll lose access. But for that week, you're going to have access to, there's a chat feature that's going to be turned on, so you'll be able to chat with other members, ask questions about the sale. You're going to get 24-hour early access. Is not as much as the village, which is going to be getting more, which we'll talk about in a minute. But still, there's definitely some benefits. I have changed up the schedule a bit. I've added another session to it. So go check it out. Check out some of the features. There's exclusive giveaways that are going to be happening on there, and it's all for $29. And you can join in with your whole family, get together with someone else. It's just a great way to kickstart your year. So if you haven't registered for that, go and do that so that you're on the list and we can start adding you. That's our event. Don't forget our sale is coming up. We only do one sale a year, and that is our back to school sale, which is June 25th to 29th All right. And that's 20% off everything in our store. So you're not going to want to miss our sale. That's when you're going to want to stock up on stuff. And we have so much happening behind the scenes. We have purchased 2 new buildings, which I'm hoping to be able to take you guys on some tours of. We have purchased new equipment, new printers, new booklet makers. We're hoping to eventually be able to do spines that actually have printing so you can see on them. Just a lot of changes are happening really, really rapidly. And really a lot of this is in preparation for our sales so that hopefully we can get through things faster and better. But we do print to order. We do fulfill orders in the order they are received. So we get a massive backlog of orders during our sale. And that's why there's a huge, when we say you get early access to the sale, it's worth the money because you're going to be getting your order basically in time for the school year. Whereas if we have a huge volume of orders and you didn't order till day 2 or 3, you may not be getting your order for a month or 2. Sometimes we've even gone as long as 3, just trying to fulfill everything. So I just want to make sure we're setting the stage that you guys all know that this is a big deal, our back to school sale, and you don't want to miss it. So the last bit of news we have for you is we're going to tell you a little bit about the village, and I'm going to let Cassidy share because she's kind of heading up that side of things.
I am, yeah. So the village is just a really cool place where members can connect. And we've got monthly podcasts that Rebecca does. We've got some challenges mixed in there. We've got some really good resources that we share. And village members get 2-day early access to the sale. So
and extra shopping help.
Extra shopping help. We do have an event coming up where we will have Bree from customer service. She will be doing a live kind of walking people through making their carts and everything. So that'll be really, really interesting. And then we have a connect area for members to freely post and discuss. And there's currently some devotionals going on over there. There's all kinds of fun stuff. So I really encourage you to check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to see. And I really think that, again, as we're talking about the future of education, I've been thinking a lot about the future of conferences and the future of events. And just it's been interesting to travel and go to these events. I believe that there is such a need for community and for connection. And so I see with the village, one of the main benefits not being that it is even content from me as much as it's the ability to have a place where you can connect with like-minded people who share your values. And there are people who want to be there because they're paying to be there. So I think sometimes with social media, it can get so diluted with a lot of negativity. You have a lot of people who are just, trolling, they're looky-loos, they're not serious, they're just there to bash. And so people are wanting to go away from that, but trying to create and cultivate a community where you have the access to do what you want to do, like creating meetups and events and lives and whatever you want to make it, but really facilitating that connection. So, yeah.
Yep. Lots of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, I don't know, school groups. What do we call them? Group schooling.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think there's 4 main types. I might be missing one. Post in the comments if I'm missing something. But I think from what I'm seeing, there is in the homeschool community, to be clear, there is microschools, there is co-ops, there is hybrid schools, which are becoming more and more popular, and there are academies. And so I kind of want to go over the 4 different options. I want to talk a little bit about what they are and the pros and cons of them. And I don't know, just to hear some feedback from even us of what we see, what would be attractive to us as homeschool parents or what would be frustrating for us as homeschool parents. I know that, both of us have some different experiences with co-ops or gatherings or groups or things like that. And so we're just gonna have a conversation today. That's what this is gonna be. And so if you have coffee or if you're a tea person, for me, it's too late in the day for coffee, then I highly recommend just go heat it up right now. And we're just gonna have a simple conversation. We would love for you guys to add to it in the comments. All right, so let's start off with a micro school. Let's start off most schooly and work our way down. So in Microschool, these are, I mean, really how they sound, micro meaning small school. They're a school, but generally they are parents coming together who want more control over their kids' education. There's usually one person who's like the visionary of it. They are designed to be very small and very targeted, and they're not trying to gain the masses. They're really trying to be super intentional. They're often really out of the box. So they might be more project-based learning, or they might be something that's like outside for a school, you know, in the garden, greenhousing, whatever. I don't know. There's all sorts of different ones I've seen, but the idea is that they're very purposeful, very intentional, very small, and very focused. And those are becoming more and more popular throughout the United States. There's a lot of people that maybe they can't homeschool, but they are wanting something different and innovative for their children. And so there's these creative people that are creating these really innovative schooling opportunities. And I think that that's highly attractive to parents right now.
Definitely.
I think like one of the downsides is cost. I think a lot of these things are really expensive to enroll your kids in. They're a model of usually drop your kids off. So you have some control in that you're involved in the conversation, but you're not necessarily the one teaching your kids, right? You're bringing them there and dropping them off at school.
Yeah.
Have you done anything like that? Or would you be interested in anything like that? How do you feel?
I've never done anything like that personally. Parts of it do sound very appealing, but at the same time, I feel like that's not really homeschooling them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're still having like the school based outline of it.
There was one in Fort St. John that was really interesting. It was very project-based learning. Did you ever hear about Freedom School?
Oh, yeah, I know people that go there. Yeah.
It was, or I actually, if that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Was it called that?
Oh, Freedom Learners or something.
Yeah. Freedom Thinkers.
Freedom Thinkers.
Yeah.
There we go.
And it was very like small, exclusive. You had to apply to get in there, and it was project-based learning. And I was interested. I was super tempted.
It is really. It's very neat.
It is.
Yeah. I think it's grown a bit since you guys were there.
Yeah. I think too. That's probably. I mean, I see it's very similar to church. You know, we see the big mega church and we think, I don't want that. I want, you know, to have more intentionality. So often people are drawn to smaller or even home churches.
Yeah.
But the thing is that a home church or a small church that is really doing well, it thrives and it grows until it gets to a point where it's like, you know, you're becoming like the normal churches that you were maybe trying to avoid in the first place, but it's the natural stages of growth when something is doing well. And so I don't know what the solution is. Is the solution, well, let's just tear down anything that's big, or anything big is bad? Because small things that are good turn into big things. Yeah. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
Can't see from that far away.
I know, we're getting older. We don't have our glasses. I don't know. Yeah, the regulations as far as different states, they definitely vary. Microschools often are trying to, from what I understand, they are going through the state. They are actually being registered as a school. They have registered teachers. They're basically registering as a private school. And again, it's going to be different in different states. So yes, you have the ability to have more control or be more creative in the learning, but the school is telling you this is what we do, this is how we're doing it, and you're registering for that, right? So you're not necessarily custom tailoring your child's education. You're finding something very unique and out of the box and signing up for that. So that's awesome, Nina. You've been trying it out. I love it. Cassie, you tutored 8 homeschool kids last year. Oh my goodness. You're opening up a nonprofit learning center this year for 30 kids. I love it.
Wow.
There is a lot of, I don't know. There's just, there's a growing need. There's a growing need for this stuff. And I feel like anywhere people start something, there's just favor on it right now because people are hungry to connect, to not be doing this on their own. And I think a lot of new people need support.
Oh, 100%. I know I did when I first kind of jumped into the homeschooling realm of things.
Yeah.
And it's hard depending on where you live, especially like we lived in a really rural area, and I was pretty fortunate to find a good group of homeschoolers, but I know not everyone has that. So
Individual needs are met. In Nebraska, no need to register as private. You declare as homeschool with state. Yeah, so I think different states, people are doing different things. I've actually heard of that. I don't remember which state I heard of that, but it was really important when I was meeting with someone who was starting some sort of co-op. I want to say it was, where were we considering moving? We were looking above Tennessee is, why do I keep thinking Kansas? Wrong direction. It's got a K, doesn't it?
Kentucky?
Yes, Kentucky. I'm tired, okay? We were flying all night just a few nights ago, so bear with me. I think it was Kentucky where they originally were going to start One Direction and were told, no, you need to go this route because if you register or you set yourself up this way, you're actually going to do damage as far as the homeschool laws that we're trying to uphold and protect. And so it's really important that you set this up this way. So I would say if anyone is interested or considering setting up a microschool, I would recommend getting in touch with HSLDA and even just talking to them and finding out. They're the ones who know the legal obligations, laws, and you want to make sure that you are doing things in a way that is supporting homeschooling and the future of homeschooling and the freedom of homeschooling and not being set up in a way that is going to affect it. If, for example, you were to set something like that up as a homeschool and it was not allowed to be set up that way, then it could do damage to, just the homeschool community at large who's really trying to fight for your freedom. So that would be my recommendation. But everywhere is different. Isn't that fun? You never know what you're getting.
I know, it's so different moving here from Canada. And now you have all the different states. It's all different.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, Canada has the different provinces and they're all different, but there's so much less of them.
Yes, there's a lot less.
And you know what? Like you guys, most of us, we just live in one province most of our life. So you get familiar with your own region and the requirements, and you're totally unaware of everywhere else. So we're having to think a lot more globally now than we ever did before. So. All right, so that is Microschools, and you guys can continue the conversation in the comments. And even some of you I'm seeing like you're trying it out, you're currently doing one, there's a need for them in your area. I would love for you guys to post, share, if you know what the requirements are in your area, post those things, because I think that is really helpful for people who are considering, looking for, or considering starting a microschool. Let's move on to, let me think here. What would be the next one? Let's do co-ops next.
Yeah.
How do you feel about co-ops, Cassidy?
I like them.
What do you like about them?
I just love how it's structured and unstructured all at the same time. And you have such a diverse group of people that get together.
Okay, have you ever, do they make you be involved? I mean,
No,
different co-ops are different.
I've never had to.
Okay, this is why. I'm seeing why this is a positive experience. Okay, so tell me what kind of co-op you did.
We actually used Gather Round. And we would do the lesson together first and then kind of do an activity around that lesson afterwards. But it was more so one mom that kind of led the whole thing, and she basically did it every week.
But so would you drop the kids off or would you go with them? And
I stayed because Dax was still pretty little when I did it. So I stayed. But having one person leading the whole group, she got burnt out. So then it kind of just fizzled off. So I see the benefit of everyone taking turns and everyone coming together and taking part of the workload.
Was it at someone's house?
No, we met at the church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, co-ops are very diverse. I feel like, to slap a label on what a co-op is, I feel like people are like, I do a co-op. And I'm like, do you? Or is it a microschool or a hybrid because it's a word that can have a lot of different meanings depending on your interpretation of it, or even regionally sometimes. But the idea of a co-op is the word cooperative. So it should be ultimately different parents coming together and all working together. The way that we always identified a co-op from a hybrid is basically if there was a lot of money involved. Some co-ops have some sort of a membership fee, and that really just goes to cover their insurance and some really basic things, but they're generally a nonprofit and they are designed just to support the homeschool community. They require parental involvement in order to be involved in it, and it's not costing a lot of money, or people aren't necessarily getting paid.
Yeah.
So that's a co-op. And I think that they are really popular. Anyone can start one. You can start a co-op. You just get together with a few moms, and you choose your curriculum, and you can get together 1 day a week. You can get together 2 days a week. You can, school together every day of the week if you want to. And so it's very flexible in that sense. I personally, I guess I probably didn't do a co-op. It was probably more of a hybrid school. They called them co-ops, but it was,
I feel like they call most things co-op.
yeah.
Rather than like micro school or hybrid. I think it's mostly just co-op.
I think because it was like pay this amount of money and drop your kids off.
Right. Okay.
Which that's not really a co-op.
No.
So at first I was like, great, it's going to be my work day. And so I would drop the kids off and I would do school. But the problem is that they were sent home with homework. They had presentations and posters and things they had to do. And we were losing a day of school. And so for me, I got a bad taste in my mouth with co-ops because I felt like we lost a day and it added work to my workload. So when I'm envisioning co-ops going forward for my own family, I'm always thinking it has to be what I want is, for example, we use Gather Round. So I'm looking for a co-op where we're all using the same curriculum, where we come together, and if we're going to do it for a day or two or whatever, it's doing the same lesson that I'm working on. So it's taking away from my workload rather than something that's adding to it and I'm losing time. So, and I love when it can have like extracurricular and stuff built into that so that I don't have to drive them around to 6 different things for all the different kids. That's my version of a co-op, but co-ops
nice.
For you guys, tell us in the comments, what does a co-op look like for you? We would love to hear it. You've been in a secular co-op and a Christian co-op, Sarah. The secular one didn't ask for help, but kids were unruly and disrespectful. The Christian one did require at least one parent to be involved. And because you had a baby, you dropped out. Both had homework and the kids hated that. It's an experience, right? And at first you're like, kids, see, this is what school's like. And it gives them a little bit of an appreciation for homeschool, but that wears out really quickly. Catherine did an artist series group 2 years ago. You had a team of 3 who planned the activities and took turns leading. Yeah, you know what I saw the other day? I saw a reel of, it was like a homeschool mom. I told you about it. A homeschool mom co-op sleepover.
Yes.
Doesn't this sound amazing? Now,
sounds so fun.
I don't know, like they were in someone's house. Now, here's the pros of doing this in someone's house. Okay. So you get together, you're doing a co-op. They all had matching pajamas and they were having like tea. They had all this stuff planned. Some had babies. There was like a picture. But I see the value of doing it in someone's house because you would have all that time to plan.
Yep.
But also, man, you'd have to like know each other, or you'd get to know each other.
You would get to know each other, but at the same time, I think it would be like so comfortable.
Yeah.
In a weird way. But I think it would just be, I don't know, I think it would be so cool to try.
I think we have to do it.
Should we?
I think we have to do it. I think for our co-op this next year, we need to like get past the awkward.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Get matching pajamas, kick the guys out. What do you do with your family?
That sounds like the dad's problem.
Oh man. Anyways, they got together, they planned their homeschool year. They just got to know each other more. And I just thought that was such a cool idea. Again, when I've been looking at, events and I've been thinking and praying about God, I just continually keep coming back to what is the future of homeschooling? What is the future of even online events and conventions? Because I love conventions. I love speaking at conventions. I love meeting you guys. And I love how we can fellowship together and encourage one another. I think, though, that we often say, come to a homeschool convention and like connect and find your tribe or your community. But actually, there's not really time for that. No. You're staying at a hotel, you're with your family, your kids are, hanging off you. Even if you go by yourself, you're with your group of girls that you go with, because no one goes really by themselves.
No.
So you go with a group of girls, you hang out with just them. You're not meeting other homeschoolers. You're like trying to find your curriculum. You're listening to sessions. It's like receive. And I think people go home very overwhelmed with the amount of information.
It is overwhelming. It's a lot because I feel like it's just one thing after the other.
Yeah.
And you have no really downtime.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. And so I've been thinking about like next year, I want to do another in-person gathered in his name. And what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think there needs to be like intentional time for community. Again, almost like we're trying to do in the village. Less like, I mean, let's do encouragement and let's, have books and but to have something like that, like mom's night out, sleepover kind of feel where you get to know each other, or, like I was even thinking like a dinner where you get together with other like high school parents, all come together. We're gonna have a dinner and there's gonna be a session, but there's also gonna be like a targeted connection time where you're gonna get to know the people around your table, or, maybe we have ones divided by region. I don't know. I just think there's a creative way that we could do it in a way where there's actually community building. Because even if you don't live in the same area, to know that someone else is going through something similar, it can give you a lot more hope than just hearing a session.
That's so interesting you brought that up. I saw a video, just saw like scrolling on Facebook, but a mom posted and she was like, I'm really looking for just other mom friends. Like and she's in Georgia, but she was like, where is everyone else from? And there was just hundreds upon hundreds of all these comments of people like, I'm in Georgia. Like, I would love to meet up there. I think there's so many people that are just needing community.
Yeah.
And needing people.
Yeah. Even like I did a business session and I was saying, like, I was talking about how one of my things is when you are running your own business, when you're an entrepreneur, expect to lose friends. And it can be really lonely. And I was talking about that, but then I flipped and I was like, that being said, I don't think that is God's desire. I don't think that's the original plan or intention for us to be alone. I think maybe sometimes we need to find new friends, people to connect with that understand our life or our dynamics or things like that. But this lie, I think we sometimes buy into and just accept that, well, we're just not going to find it. We live in a small community. Yeah. We're entrepreneurs and no one's going to understand us. We are leaders. And because we're leaders, it's just really hard to find friends, whatever it may be. I feel like we sometimes accept that this is just the way of things. And I think it's worth persevering for connection and for community. Yeah. So there's my vision. All right. So that's co-ops. And I don't know, like I have a love-hate relationship with them. I can see how, yes, people get burned out. There are a lot of organization. They can be a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And again, they can grow, which is good. But the bigger they grow, the more problems you will have. There's a lot of logistics that I don't think people think about when they start a co-op, that behind the scenes, if you're actually doing it, like I would recommend small and super casual with a few friends that you know. If you see it start to grow, what happens is you have to start to set up a nonprofit. You have to start to, have board meetings, and you have to start to do minutes, and you have to start to have memberships, and you have to start, meeting legal requirements, and you need insurance, and you need to, make sure that all your teachers are getting background checks. And it starts to feels almost out of control. And now you have to start charging money because you have all this overhead. And now you're renting out a church space, or you're trying to find somewhere to meet, and that has overhead. And I think that the bigger it gets, the more we enroll our kids thinking they're going to find community. And I think they go and they maybe have fun because they're doing something. But I think they can often still be so busy they're doing something like at a convention that they're not actually finding community after all.
Yeah, I agree.
So big fan of the small and the informal and the casual is my opinion.
Love the casual.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to hybrids. What is your definition of a hybrid school? What is your experience with hybrid schools? These are, I would say, all the rage. Everyone's talking hybrid school. Hybrid school is like trending in the homeschool world. What would you define a hybrid school as?
I guess like a couple days a week you go into like a formal school setting, but you're also homeschooling at home.
Yeah.
Which like, how do you split that up? Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I've never done a hybrid. I know a couple people that have, and they really like it. I don't know.
So I don't know. I've looked at a number of different ones. What gets me with hybrid schools is the cost. I've seen hybrid schools that are, between $5,000 to $10,000 a student.
What?
Like it's the same cost. You may as well go and register your child for a Christian school or a private school. It's, in my mind, if you're paying the same amount of money and you're having to do homeschooling at home,
that's a lot. Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot. I think sometimes they charge that because they are out of the box. Sometimes they're really, beautiful. They've got, I think, a lot of overhead. Their teachers, they're like, we're going to be excellent. but you're paying excellent money. And again, getting a couple days a week as opposed to doing it at home. I think actually a lot of hybrid schools I'm seeing are more micro schools that are calling themselves hybrids because they're doing it 4 days a week, which if you're doing it every day of the week, in my mind, that's not a hybrid school because that's not a hybrid, is talking about two things coming together and blending. It should be a co-op and a micro school coming together and blending. So you're getting a little bit of that kind of out of the box schooling experience where you drop your kids off. Okay. You're paying for it, but you drop your kids off, but you're also doing school at home. And so you're supposed to be getting the best of both worlds. But I'm seeing more and more where they're like, drop your kids off every day of the week, in which case I don't really consider that a hybrid school.
No.
What are you guys seeing for cost in your area? Like when you look up hybrid schools, are they like 6,000 plus? I feel like they maybe start, the cheapest I've seen is maybe 4. And that's for younger students. If you have older students, it's like doop, 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 goes up from there. Isn't that crazy?
I have no idea.
I think part of it, like that's one of, I think, the primary issues. So we have the issue in the homeschool community of connection, but we also have like logistics of where we live, right? If somebody lives 40 minutes away from something, how much can you really get involved? And then we have finances. And I feel like to pay that kind of money, on top of which you're possibly adding your curriculum, on top of which it's your gas driving back and forth, on top of which you're probably paying for extracurriculars and everything else, I just think it stacks up really fast and becomes
it has to.
not an option for people.
Yeah.
I want to see some of those. With all fees around $5,000, $300 a month, that's not bad, Sarah. I know someone who is considering moving to Texas, a private school there. What was it, like $10,000 to $13,000 per student? But that's like a private school. Yeah. So I'm sure it varies greatly depending on where you are and probably your options. If you're doing 1 day a week versus 2 versus 3, a lot of hybrid schools offer options where you can pop in and out as it suits you. So that's not bad. $3,000 a year. Yes, Catherine, the benefit of a hybrid is you don't lose all the time with your kids like private. You have family days and flexibility. You have a teacher, and there's costs associated with it, pros and cons. Most I know that do a hybrid do what the school does, and they have homework on other days, so no additional homeschooling takes place. That's interesting. So basically, I was going to say that. I think most hybrids that I'm seeing, they're not integrating with your curriculum. So that's why I love the idea of this co-op model that I have in my head, where it's like not adding things to my day, but it's actually working with the curriculum I'm using. I think that a hybrid school, they're not looking at the curriculum you're using. Like you drop your kids off, they do what they do. And yes, you're going to have homework sent home. And so if you want to do a combination, you're also doing your own things, or you're doing that homework on those home days. And so you get to have a combination, but it's kind of like school, distance learning.
Yeah.
And drop your kids off, as opposed to the freedom and flexibility of homeschooling where you're choosing your own curriculum, teaching your kids how you want and what you want. Emily, you did hybrid for a day, for a while, 4 days a week, very little at home, very small class size, just as expensive as private school, but more freedom. Yeah. I think with hybrids, kind of like a micro school, depending, I think again, 4 days a week in my mind, that's starting to transition over to a micro school. But I think the idea is with micro or hybrid, it's small enough in size that you have a bit of a say, almost like you're on a board, right? Or like you have a bit of a say in what it looks like. You're meeting together, you're getting more support for your kids usually. So if they need additional support, a lot of hybrids and micro schools, they really advertise for kids with special needs or that need more assistance. And so they really focus on unique learning styles and paths and options to support that, which I think is really attractive to some families who feel just lost.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or thoughts on these three? So far we have talked about micro schools, co-ops, and hybrids, and then we're gonna move on to another option. Hybrid schools are definitely trending in southeastern North Carolina. I want to do a farm school that is cheap for the community. That would be amazing. Farm school. We've got garden school, we've got forest school, we've got farm school. I mean, what else can we do?
I would love farm school.
That sounds so much fun.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think what you were talking about, my only thing that I would encourage families, I think I talk about this a lot when I speak. I talk about how, we want community. It's kind of like I always refer to I have a sign in my bathroom that says, everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change the toilet paper roll. Be the change, Like a lot of times we're wanting community, but we're also kind of sitting there passively saying somebody else build it for us. And so I'm a big advocate of see the need, maybe you're the solution, That being said, if you've got this vision and you're alone in it and it's at your house and you have to clean every single week and, parents are dropping their kids off, at first it's going to meet a need for your kids. You're going to feel fulfilled. You're going to feel like you have purpose and you have meaning and everything's going to go great. And I can tell you this from personal experience, but over time, you're going to probably start to feel maybe taken advantage of if you're the one doing most of the work associated for it. It starts to become a lot of a weight. There's a lot less freedom for you in your own homeschool. And so again, I just always encourage you to find other people to do it alongside. We are, I think, desperate to create community for our kids. And in that desperation, we're willing to do a lot. And we sign up ourselves for stuff and we commit to stuff. And it's like, I'm going to fix this problem for my kid. But now we're committed to it. We have to follow through with it. And I think it's better to go a little slower and to find ways of doing that with other people so that we don't get burnt out. But I know it's not always possible, but just, Jessica, there was something similar to a hybrid that was offering classes that happen on 2 specific days a week and you sign up for specific classes you wanted. Yeah, they have something like that here. They kind of work with credits. It was $1,000 for a semester for that one class, and it was worth 2 full credits, or $250 to $500. I think, especially in high school, that's becoming more attractive too. So there are co-ops that charge where they actually have teachers and they're helping meet needs for high school students, as far as that foreign language, which is really hard to get, as far as labs, as far as sports, for your PE, whatever it may be. They really take that intentionality of let us help you fill the gaps that you have. So that's another option as well. Again, you're probably finding a really formal co-op. That's not too bad. You're kind of paying for what you get. You can pick and choose. I think potentially, and this is just me, I feel like I am not the best person to talk about this because I have a negative outlook. Okay. But it's just because I've experienced it. I'm like, this is going to solve the problem for my kid. But if it's a really big school or class or co-op and it's like in and out and they're busy the entire time doing that class or that course, they're not actually really connecting with anyone. So it's actually the bonding and the connecting time happens in the recesses and the goofing off and the playtime. And so I think that we think it's going to solve everything. And sometimes it just busies us and we become exhausted and we're not actually solving the root problem. And I know that's a tricky one. I get it. I mean, I live in this, guys. I have 5 kids, so I don't know the solution. I just know a whole lot of problems. I see the problems, okay? Okay. So, yeah, Jessica. Yeah, so expensive. All right, so let's talk about another option for homeschool families, and that is online academies or online school. And again, this is something that's been happening for quite some time. I think it started off with Becca and Bob Jones. They would have like DVDs that they would send. Even Matthew C. had that, DVDs that you would basically order, and you would have a teacher that would be teaching to you, and you would sit down and listen to the lesson. Now, of course, as technology is advancing, a lot more of those are still movies kind of style of teaching. One really good one that I can recommend is Power Homeschool. It's very affordable, very affordable. And you can choose up to 7 subjects. And so especially for your older ones, it has a ton on there, great teachers. But that's one that we've utilized for some of our high school to get some, different things in there, or for upper level high school math. But I mean, I think they're moving towards, again, that digital like app style, but there is still a growing need for online. And part of that is parents are working. They don't have the time to homeschool. They want to do it, but they're struggling with actually just fitting it in and being consistent and committing to it.
Consistency is what I struggle with a lot personally, which I'm sure many of you do as well. I feel like that's such a struggle, especially when you're working and you're taking care of your kids, your home, like it becomes a lot.
Yeah.
And stuff falls through the crack. And I think it's just, just happens.
And I think the hard part is that, I mean, I think inflation has gone up so much. Cost of living has gone up so much. Yeah. I don't think that we're necessarily seeing the same increase in wage that's compensating for that.
Yeah, totally.
So then people are having to work. They're having, I mean, one income is really, really, really hard. Not impossible, but really hard to live off of one income without some extra source coming in, unless, your hubby has an amazing job. So I think we're seeing an increase in people working on the side, and then trying to fit that in with, like you've got your home to manage, you've got, all of the activities that you have, you've got just your life, your kids, like that's all aside from homeschooling, and then trying to fit that in, especially with all of your kids. And as they're getting older and their needs are expanding, or this one needs one-on-one reading help, or I think things can fall in between the cracks, and you start to just get more and more behind and feel like a failure, but you have desire to homeschool, but you're struggling with it. And I think this is the tension that so many families are in right now. I'm sure, like, hands up emoji, that so many of you are like, yes, that is exactly me. It's this tension of like, I don't want to drop them off at a co-op or a hybrid or a microschool. I want to do this. I have a passion for teaching my kids, but I also kind of can't, like I'm trying, but I feel like I'm failing and I can't keep up, and I'm not giving my kids what they need. And we're kind of just unschooling because we're, struggling to fit everything in. And so I think in cases like that, online options are becoming more attractive. Yeah. And I'm not a huge fan of online, in that I always think, in person is better. It's right in front of my face. Look at that. Look at these automated little things. Wow. I love how it's like right in front of my face. Right in your face. I'm not a huge fan of some of those things, but I just see that I think they are the future of education.
Yeah, I think it's just the way it's heading.
I think it's the way it's heading. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Well, they're typing it in. Online.
I think now that my oldest is 11, it would be a lot easier. I think with younger kids, it's a bit of a struggle because they obviously have shorter attention spans, and I think you can lose the interest of younger kids. Yeah. But with my oldest, I think he could do it. I think it would be very, very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to recognize where you're at. I think it's important to recognize that it may just be a season, but it's sometimes better than doing nothing. So again, if we need extra support to sign up for something, it's better than nothing. It's, for a season. What I think, and this is where even Gather Round, I've been really praying about, like, what is the future, and how, of course, I want to be directing this company in a direction that is not just going to work today, but as we're thinking forward into what is the future of education. And so I think, for myself, I'll put it this way, if at least if I knew I had to do online, to know that it was using at least a curriculum that was aligned with my values and that I knew and believed in and loved, would be a huge benefit to me. And it would also feel like, maybe I can use it almost like a hybrid for the support of the teaching, and that flexibility where they can start to do it a little bit independently and on their own, but I can still help them with their pages, or I can still, and again, it's still our family moving in the direction that I have chosen. And so really the direction that I think we're headed, and something that I'm gonna probably, not promising, but I think we're leaning towards testing out this year, is an online academy. And That being like teachers that are really gifted to not just read the teacher's guide, but know the teacher's guide and teach face-to-face to your child, where they're talking like this and they're engaging with them. They're covering the content that you believe in and that you chose and that you purchased. And then having that assistance, maybe having a class that's for letters and numbers and a class that's for ready to read, that's giving them that targeted, really short burst help actually through their pages. Having like some of those extracurricular with a foreign language and just some of those different things that we could work in there, whether that's a lab or I don't know, whatever we kind of decide to do with it. But I'm leaning towards something like that where parents could choose 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or 4 days a week. And I think that would really allow this combination of, it could be an online co-op for you. It could be a hybrid school for you. It could be an online academy for you. It really could be what you needed it to be in that season, and possibly even doing it like, I'm still working through the logistics, but like a subscription where it's just month to month and you have the ability to change it. Maybe just you're having a new baby and you just need some extra support. So you're like, I'm going to sign up for 4 credits or days a week, this month. And then next month, I'm going to down it. I'm only going to do 2 because I really feel like I love this unit. I'm so excited about it. I want to teach some of the days. But I want the kids to still have that connection. I want to have places where the kids can communicate with one another. So like having chat and having, possibly, and again, I'm just brainstorming all of this, but taking over report cards for you guys or transcripts for your high schoolers, where your stuff is getting graded, they're submitting it, they're having a teacher look at it, which may give them, with that community aspect with other kids, they may feel a little bit more motivated, and just offering more support to families, but in a way that is really intentional and using the curriculum that people believe in. So that's kind of the direction that I feel like we're going, even for myself, because one of the things we have here on site is we have a number of staff. We've got kids and we're trying to write homeschool curriculum for you guys. And we're struggling to do it ourselves because we're busy. So yeah, I think having, even for us, of like what I want for my kids, they need to have consistency. And so that allows us to be like, well, we'll pop in on this day, or we'll do it at home on this day, and the ultimate flexibility while still filling in the direction that I've chosen to go and not adding anything to my plate, always removing things from my plate, and helping assist as much as we can for our parents. So those are online academies, and we're super excited. And we'd love to hear your feedback on something like that. Is that something that you would be interested in? What do you think that would look like for your family? Even what, kind of days you would be interested in. Like, I think we're at such a beginning stage in that, but we don't have a lot of time to plan. We would not start August 1st. We would start September 1st. I need to breathe through the sale. But I would really love to hear your guys' ideas. We would choose, 8 to 10 units. We would work on those. I would need to find teachers, and we would work on, setting everything up for that pretty quickly. So as we're in this early stages, if you have any ideas, email them in, post them here. Maybe we'll start a little thread about it in the app where you guys can chime in a little bit more. But I think that, there's definitely, at least for us, there's a need for something like that. Cool. All right. Any other feedback, questions about the different options for homeschoolers? Do you guys, I would love to hear you guys just chime in. Are you like, you do one of these or you do none of these? Is there anyone that's like, no to the groups, no to anything. I just want to be alone. I bought land so I could be alone with my family and my horses. Okay. I don't know. So post how you feel about group learning. Do you think that this is the future of education? And if not, what do you think that looks like? And how do we meet the growing need for community and connection for our families without going crazy and running like hamsters on a wheel around and around and around?
You don't like that?
No,
Really?
not a fan. Not a fan of extracurricular and signing my kids up for things just to ultimately not get their needs met and have paid a lot of money. Like I don't have time for that. So I'm gonna let a few more people chime in. Your hybrid is free through the school. That is amazing.
Wow.
I love that. Hybrids in California are between $6,500 to $8,000.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. You're also not getting quality teaching, so it's a bit of a drawback because you feel like you could do a better job yourself, but once you start, it's so hard to pull away. I could definitely see that, and I have seen that in a number of different things, and I think that, yeah, that's a legitimate concern, and yet your kids start to love it, and you start to feel like, you know, you're kind of stuck. So that is definitely something to consider. Let's see. Would be really cool if teacher for the unit could be an expert in that field. Yeah, definitely. Or, you know, I was talking with a friend about just what's happening in the schools right now. And they were saying how there's a lot of schools that are struggling to find teachers. This is again up in North where we live, but where we used to live. But so the Christian schools, what a lot of them are doing is they are hiring people who are experts in their field. They're hiring people who have degrees or experience. They don't have any teaching experience, no teaching degrees, but at least they have experience in that field. Therefore, they hire them as teachers. And what they're finding is that they're not great teachers. They're finding that they're lacking the awareness of what kids need, how to teach to the kids, how to talk to the kids, how to make it interesting or engaging. They're just kind of like content machines, but lacking kind of that interpersonal skills or the classroom management skills. Being a really good teacher, you can take any knowledge that you learned and you can disseminate that to kids in a way that makes it come to life. I believe it's a gift. I really do believe it's a gift. And I think that we can grow in that gift with our kids. I think that, you know, we can pray, we can ask the Lord, we can try different things. And I think that we can grow and become really good teachers for our children. I also believe that some people are just incredibly gifted in that area. And whether or not they're masters in that field is, again, knowledge is so easily accessible. Anyone can get the knowledge, but being able to teach that knowledge in an applicable way that, again, this contextual learning, I always come back to it when I'm writing anything. I don't want to teach this to them if I'm not teaching them why it matters or how they could apply this, because what's the point? You know, we always say, our kids say like, why do I have to learn this? I think that's a legitimate question. I think that's a great question to ask. Why do you have to learn this? When are you going to apply this? You know, it should be applicable. It should have meaning. It should have context. And that's the only time our kids are really going to remember it. And so the ability to take information and present it in that way, I think is really powerful.
Yeah.
So, yes, experts who also homeschool. I love it. Yeah. Education is changing. We met 3 days a week this year and accomplished the same as when I taught in public school. In Florida, the PEP scholarships pay the tuition for the learning center. Best part is we can tailor education to what each child needs and not worry about politics in our small rural area. That's a huge benefit. Wow. I think, again, often, and I think it's important to consider this fact. I know that every state is different, but in Canada, and I know you guys have similar here, you can often get funding from the government when you're more in line with essentially their requirements. Yep. So in Canada, in BC specifically, and Alberta, I think, you can register under school, you have an assigned teacher, you have certain learning outcomes you have to meet, but you kind of have flexibility of how you're going to meet that, what curriculum you use to meet that, and you submit samples and portfolios, but you get funding. And so it's an attractive option for many homeschoolers. I know that here there's umbrella schools, and I know not everywhere does it, but a lot of states do. Alaska has some great options, but as people kind of explore some of those things, I think over time you can become really, and I'm not speaking to your specific situation, Cassie. I know that Florida is actually great, and if you live in a more a rural area where there's a lot more flexibility and freedom, that's a huge plus. But I just know that, again, in my own experience, you become a slave sometimes to having to meet those outcomes, meet that criteria, teach your kids certain things in certain years. And for me, I would try to like combine my kids and, well, this doesn't count because they can't learn about ancient Greece in grade 2. They have to learn about it in grade 5. It just felt so backwards to me. And I was just panicking and stressed about meeting all these outcomes.
It's overwhelming.
I didn't even believe in
It's a
it.
lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think, those things can be good and they can be really helpful, especially in the beginning when you have no idea what you're doing.
Mhm.
But there is often, and not always, the option of doing it entirely on your own, and often not getting a lot of funding or support, but ultimately having full freedom and flexibility for what education is for your family. And I am a strong proponent and supporter of free education, meaning freedom in education, over the tether or the leash that I often see the financial compensation bringing. So that's just my own experience, though, again, in my own province / what you would have like an estate. And so I know that it doesn't apply to everything. But it's, I don't know. The outcomes sometimes stifle learning. Yes. That's a good way to put it.
Mhm.
All right. So I hope that gives you guys some ideas for some of the different options. Again, I would love to keep this conversation going. So I'd love for you to post. If you're watching the replay, feel free to do that. We'll probably post something about this over in the app so we can continue the conversation there. If you missed the newsletter, don't miss our event registration to get all of those great goodies. There's math samples. There is like giveaways that we're doing that are exclusive in there. There's an exclusive chat. There's early access to the sale. And there's 2 new sessions that were added that you're going to want to check out. So go check it out. That's available. Someone can maybe post the link. Otherwise, we'll come on here and post it in just a few. But it is also available on our homepage if you just scroll down to our little event block there. But we'd love to have you register for it. We're getting geared up. And otherwise, we will be coming on here again next week. So stay tuned. I will post the topic and we'll go from there. All right, now I have to find where to exit this.
Right there.